Just for clarification on the re-subdivision, the surface parking lot at 201 South Crouse also includes property known as 1010
Correct.
East Washington Street.
Yep.
The Office of Zoning Administration has no record of those two properties ever having been combined.
Sure,
through
understood.
property,
No, they're separate parcels.
Subdivisions, so I'm looking at those as two separate properties. If they're maintained as two separate properties, then the buffering requirement will apply to 201.
Okay, yeah, well, understood. Sure. I mean, the
It's
functionality,
up to you.
yeah. I think functionality-wise, it's functioning as one parking lot, but I understand what you're saying. If there's a common property line that goes through the middle of it, then I guess you would have to have like a
Unless the
grass
planning
strip or
commission
something, yeah.
opts to waive that requirement.
Did we closed? I missed that part.
So it's,
I would make a motion to reopen the hearing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, both hearings are now open. So we're in a discussion phase here with some new information that's come to light regarding the solution for the parking requirements. Let's continue with that discussion.
And I can go through that again, because obviously I know that it was kind of last minute, so if you want me to take you through exactly what the setbacks are, I can do that too.
Well, it might be that just staff needs time to look at it.
That's the biggest
Yeah,
thing, I think.
understood
staff,
about that,
we
yeah.
shouldn't just push this through.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big
Right,
project.
even if it comes back in the same description that I just gave to you, at least maybe staff would have time to look at it, so.
Well, it would also seem that if, for example, this was one lot and therefore approvable, at a minimum, you'd have to do the re-subdivision to make it one lot.
Right.
One legal parcel.
Right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
not lot. And the building that's shown here, is this the 19th century brick house?
Old house, yes.
Okay,
Currently incredibly vacant though.
yes.
Yep.
we would like to just weigh in over here a little bit, staff and council. So with respect to the parking lot that is two parcels, I believe the applicant has the opportunity to come back and request a resub, but they could also just seek a waiver to, as long as it's being treated as one parcel for unity, it's completely going to be used as parking, then they could seek a waiver of the internal requirement to have the screening. So with that, I think the only other waiver they would need, and I'll defer to staff on this, is the commercial parking.
The 10 spaces for the
10
commercial.
spaces, right. So beyond, if I understand everything that's being presented tonight to the commission, on the re-subdivision, you can make a seeker determination on both applications, which you would need to do. You could approve the re-subdivision this evening. You could waive the two items we discussed if you were so inclined. I believe you have to technically hold the public hearing open on PR 22-19 to allow them to appear before the BZA.
Right.
And then come back to you on that one.
And then finalize the site plan review.
Say that again?
And then finalize the site plan review.
Okay.
And then you could consider the waivers at the final site plan review too.
So,
So act on the re-subdivision, but hold open.
Hold the other
question
open.
site review of it.
BZA completes their work and the final review from staff has been completed.
So just to put this on the table, for this parking lot, the remote parking lot, that's how I'm going to refer to it. I understand what you're saying about how we could grant a waiver for what typically would be screening along that internal property line. But is there a question about there may be a question about how they have screened the street side perimeter, and I still think we would want Jeff to make sure that it falls in line, but if it's off by a foot, so if it's 7 feet instead of 8, we would have to grant that waiver as well, correct? So better to let him at least look at that, and we can get all of the waivers in, or not have to worry about any waivers.
You do not have to grant any waiver without justification.
Right, okay. And then one last thing, I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate the applicant responding positively to all of our comments, and looking for additional parking. My concern would be that we not be overzealous in trying to screen this to the point where you propose demolishing that building. Even if it's empty, even if it's not in good shape, I don't know that the community wins a lot by getting 4 more spaces and some shrubs around them for the loss of that building right now. I mean, someday we may lose it, but just as this goes forward, depending on what Jeff ends up telling us about the screening, that to me would not be a reasonable approach. I would rather give you a waiver for a few more parking spaces and modify the screening before we just say, let's just rip down that building for whatever
Understood.
purpose. But I do appreciate the other changes that have been made. I will say, I was kind of hopeful that there'd be more commercial on Fayette, because I'm very concerned that that's a fairly unpleasant pedestrian experience north of your gym location. But I do appreciate that at least that there's some transparency in the building there.
And we aren't proposing to demolish the house too, just to make that clear.
I just
mean,
don't
that was,
want that to be the solution if we say
yeah,
the
I
screening.
mean, we probably could have fit another 10 or 15 or whatever it might have been, but obviously we've worked around that. And maybe it's just the property line issues that they can consider at the next meeting, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll try this again. Well, before I rush forward, further comments, clarifications, questions on either of these 2 project applications that we're discussing right now? Or have we pretty much reached the end of our list for those items? Okay, I see no one jumping to the microphone, so.
Well, I guess I would just ask, and I hesitate to ask, but I have to ask. This revised proposal with the additional parking and the revised floor plans has not been reviewed by any exterior or external agencies or departments. I don't recall hearing Brian address any alterations to the exterior or to the facades, but is the Planning Commission interested in another review of the revised proposal by various city departments and agencies, or are you satisfied with the review comments that you've received so far?
I'm,
I think,
Hold on.
yeah. Take-
No, go ahead.
No, just saying take your time. But what we've been talking about is perhaps acting on this re-subdivision, but we're holding the other one open anyway.
where I
So
thought
you're
we
saying,
were
while we
going.
hold that open, are we looking for any comments?
I couldn't have phrased it better.
And then just to clarify too, right, like the building didn't change size and shape. It was nominal storefront, but the majority of the comments that we worked through with Landmark Preservation Board in terms of the notch in the building and colorations and a lot of the other things still all remain. So it wasn't substantial in terms of what the staff might have reviewed, so.
It's always good to get the transportation planner's comments on anything, so.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna hold it open, we might as well ask what he thinks about the change to the north parking lot right behind the building and this one.
And-
If we're gonna wait.
And the material use, is that what you're asking, Jeff?
No,
If there have been changes to any finishing material, that would be reviewed as well.
I think we can ask the applicant if there have there been any changes?
There have not been any changes to the building materials.
So I would accept that.
Same
I
building.
don't believe the changes that they proposed this evening to the building itself are material. It's more a moving space from point A to point B. The only real changes this evening are with respect to the parking, as far as I
and
understand.
the one piece of the facade where you said the gym.
Yeah, the storefront would
Storefront
get
is a
longer,
little
or
bit-
the windows, the glazing,
It's a
yep,
little bit more transparent for
sure,
some amount of space.
exactly,
Okay.
yep.
But it's still all the same material, design,
Yep,
colors.
the
and-
building's still the same size, shape, et cetera, yep.
Excuse me.
You good?
I just went down the wrong way.
So where I'm going with this is I'm suggesting we now close R-22-50, the re-subdivision application. Consider a motion for action on that, leave the second hearing open to provide staff with sufficient time to view the changes and any additional implications, so that when we return, we will know, we'll have a full list of any waivers requested by the applicant for the commission's consideration, and we won't have to do that piecemeal. And we can hear justification for whatever is on that list of waivers being requested. Does that sound like a plan? So we'll declare the re-subdivision hearing closed, and we'll entertain a motion for action on that, R-22-30.
Move approval with the negative declaration.
50, rather, excuse me.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Re-subdivision is approved. That is done. We'll move to the project site review with an updated staff report at our next meeting, which will be in mid-December, 12th, I believe.
Correct.
And hope to be in a position where there will be a motion for action on that one at that time.
And the BZA will have acted, but
That's the
presumably will
8th.
have acted by then.
Excuse me, yeah, that's scheduled for Thursday, the 8th, so this would be, your meeting would be
Or
the following Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's it for these two. Thanks to all, those who commented last time and those who listened and incorporated comments into revised plans. It doesn't always turn out that way, but this is encouraging, and appreciate the receptivity by the applicant and those who made thoughtful comments at the previous hearing.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Our next public hearing, please.
The next public hearing is SP 22-14, a special permit for a restaurant on property situated at 1224, 1226, and 1228 East Fayette Street. 105 Mertz Avenue LLC is the owner. Paul Belinsky is the applicant, and the property lies within a business Class A zoning district. I will just point out to the commission that related to this application under new business item 1 is a request to extend the re-subdivision map filing date for what would normally be a companion re-subdivision. That was approved back in 2019, but the map has not been filed yet. So that would go with this special permit.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
So the first issue is regarding,
Can you just state your name now?
oh, yes, Paul Belinsky, address is 1226 East Fayette Street, Syracuse 13210.
Thank you. Thanks.
So the restaurant or the building currently exists in this form. We're not actually looking to make changes too much to the structure of the building. There was a door that we wanted to add for safety, and the right side of the building towards the rear. That was just another exit. We simply wanted to have a kitchen that we wanted to add, and we wanted to put in a grease trap and so that you could make donuts, and also have a hood vent and a fire suppression system according to code. As far as the parking goes, we're hoping to ask for a waiver for the parking lot, because we had actually requested that a while ago, but it was shot down, so we're okay with just having the street parking. That was what was suggested before. I do have, I'm not sure if he gave you the drawing with the parking there. So if that's acceptable, we would be happy to do that. It doesn't interfere with the house driveway next door. And so, yeah, we're just trying to get approval for that. The other thing was, I guess that's going to be another issue, but the re-subdivision, to have it all just one lot. So that the building is not crossing property lines.
You needed a couple other waivers, correct? Project that pertain to,
Let me see, wait, there were, other things that were mentioned was, as far as a parking lot, but we're not pursuing that at all. We're trying to just keep the parking the way that it was. So we did need a waiver as far as, just being able to park on the street. That was the one big issue.
there are
Other,
a couple of others, correct? The waivers that pertain to issues beyond parking. Have you seen those?
no, I'm not
You're not aware of those?
familiar with that.
Jeff, could you recap the additional waivers that are required here? What we ask applicants to do in these instances, parking might be the most popular waiver, but there are other
Right.
categories of waivers
Yeah.
as well. And we ask the applicant to provide a little rationale so that the commission can understand the need
Yeah.
for that, either whatever the circumstances on the site might be that would speak in favor of granting such a waiver, but we need the applicant to say something about those, and I think there were 4 altogether, the
Yeah,
parking
we
being one
did,
and 3 others.
This office did send an email to Mr. Belinsky on November 14th that identified the parking deviation for which he addressed.
There's nothing like.
But there's also a requirement, we're going to go right, pursuant to Part C, Section 4, Article 2-8.1, Paragraph D9, the proposed restaurant requires a minimum of 8 feet in width as measured inward from the street line for the entire length of the sidewalk to be used for landscape treatment. The site plan does not illustrate the required street line treatment area. It appears there is sufficient room, but nothing's labeled. And then pursuant to paragraph G, because the property is on East Fayette Street, which is designated as a minor arterial, the proposal requires a minimum of 150 feet of frontage along East Fayette Street. The lot has a width of 99 feet. And then no lot less than 10,000 square feet in the area shall be used for a restaurant. The site is approximately 9,900 square feet. So those deviations, arguably the street frontage and lot width cannot be remedied, so the Planning Commission would have to render a decision whether the site is appropriate as laid out, if it's appropriate for a restaurant. The street line treatment area, you can either waive or either all or in part.
So it looks like we have the adequate distance from the sidewalk. As far as the street, there, yeah, we're not making any changes to the landscape, and we can't add property that's not there. So we would request a waiver on that.
Do we have the transportation planner's comments? I don't see them in my packet. I was just looking at the length of the curb that's existing right now, width of the driveway, I guess, or the drop curb or no curb. That's typically something we usually see in our packet. I just don't see it here.
I do have the length of that. I do have that
No,
information.
no, I mean the transportation planner's comments. There's usually a maximum required for curb cut,
Okay.
and this seems to be more than that, and I just don't see his comments, which we typically would have.
Understandable.
As of November 15th, I did not have review comments from the transportation planner. I did not check today to see if,
And I can't remember the last time we looked at this, what we ended up saying,
well, I
It's
can
pre-COVID, I think.
and certainly pull a file out of your magic.
The difference on the previous time was that we had the drawings a little bit different to where there was more of an occupation. And we were discussing utilizing the rear of the building more. At this point, we were just scratching that, and we just said we wanted to just simply have a kitchen where we could sell coffee and donuts.
Yeah, I'm most my concern right now is just whether or not that curb cut is something that the transportation planner would approve. And so I was just looking for that. And I can't remember how the site plan was configured the last time you were with us.
Right.
So comments were requested, but you have no record of response from him yet.
Well, for the previous application, and I should point out that the planning commission did review and approve a similar application on June 24th, 2019. As part of that review, the transportation planner did state that the curb cut for the new parking area, which I don't believe was ever finally approved, shall align with associated 15-foot wide drive aisle and match width. No curb cut shall exceed 24 feet. I don't see any comment regarding the existing, if there is an existing curb cut.
So, along those same lines, Jeff, in this location, in this zoning classification, essentially parking in the front yard, is that allowed even?
No.
Okay, so the cars that you show fronting on the building, that's not an allowed
We would lose
condition?
those parking spaces, basically.
So you said a little bit earlier, you are proposing them right now, right?
We would-
This is drawn?
We would like to keep the ability to park there if possible, but if you're gonna say, it will, if that's a deal breaker, then we can do away with that.
Okay, well, it's just that it's not allowed to park in the front yard, between the front of a building and the sidewalk. That's typically not something that's allowed in
Okay.
under zoning. So that was why I was questioning it. And also just the width of the driveway opening, if you will, it's far greater than what is typically allowed, which is usually just 15 feet, like just the width of the driveway next to the house. That would be the most usual situation.
We would like to, I would like to request that we could have a waiver on on the parking there, just to keep what we have, but if that's very important, then we'll let it go.
Well, I will state right now, and we just received this revised site plan this afternoon, or sometime today. I have not really had a chance to review it. Suffice it to say, the 3 spaces that are illustrated encroach into the city right-of-way and either require or enable backing into the city right-of-way, which is generally not approved by the city transportation planner. I will have to look, the property is zoned business class A, and it's adjacent to business class A. I will have to look to see what the front yard requirements are for business class A that's adjoining business class A on the side. So I cannot speak definitively right now whether the 3 parking spaces would be allowed at that location or not. I will say that the encroaching into the city right-of-way and backing into the city right-of-way is generally not accepted by the city.
It might be worthwhile then to let Neil look at this and give us some fresh comments.
Well, and
Well,
and staff review as well. There's not been an opportunity for that to happen in an orderly fashion.
in fairness, right, if the staff has a chance to look at it and we get comments from the transportation planner, that helps us decide if some things are a pre-existing condition, and if there's anything about this location that might allow us to grant any of the waivers, density or any of the others. And still, we have to hold this one open.
I think that's where we're going to end up, as holding this hearing open. We need to still solicit comments from the public, of which we have very little any longer. But before we do that, are there further questions for the applicant or staff on the project that we just heard presented to us?
All set, thank you.
All set, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for the presentation. Stay tuned, and you'll find out what happens next on this one. But first, let's ask if there are any individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application. Please come forward, provide your name and address and comments. I see no one. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward, provide your name and address and comments. Okay, as I surmised, we have no additional speakers. Nevertheless, I think the sense of the body is to hold this hearing open, let the staff complete its review of the updated plan that you presented and talked about this evening, share it as well with the transportation planner, and get any additional feedback from him on these updated plans, and then return with this, return to our next meeting with this on our agenda, in the hopes that we can close the hearing, get those updates, close the hearing, and then entertain a motion on the proposal. So our next meeting will be on the 12th of next month. Okay?
Are we talking about the re-subdivision today, or that's a
That's
different?
our next item.
That's the very next item.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Funny you should ask. So, we're holding SP-2214 open. It completes the public hearing schedule for this
We
evening.
need to circle back
Whoops,
around.
right, thank you, thank you. So this is a call for presenter, those speaking in favor of, or those speaking in opposition to the project at 400 Burnett Avenue, PR-22-12. If you are here to weigh in on that project, either for or against, or to present the project to the commission, please come forward. Anyone to speak in favor of or in opposition to PR-22-12, 400 Burnett Avenue? Okay, well, there continues to be no one here.
Question. So this will now be the third meeting with no applicant, and they also have not provided the updated site plan. So would it be appropriate to just deny without prejudice and have them come back and start over, or do we just keep it open forever?
That is completely within your discretion. If you would like to deny it without prejudice, we can notify the applicant that that was the decision and let them come back.
I guess I'm just concerned we keep holding it open and they keep not showing up.
I will correct, they were here the first time.
I'm sorry, they were here the first time.
But this is now two more times when they're not here, and I was thinking along the same
Okay.
lines of you, is maybe we dismiss it without, deny it without prejudice, and when the applicant is in a position to provide the additional information, they can return, start all over again, there'll be public notice and so on. I think that might be a more efficient way to proceed on this. So is there a motion for, well, I'll make the motion to deny without prejudice.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay. Now, that completes the public hearing docket for tonight, but not our business. We have a new business item. Jeff, could you introduce the new business item, and it pertains to the
Yes,
speaker we just
my
heard?
apologies. I am somewhat preoccupied. R 1932, it's a request to extend the filing date for a re-subdivision map to combine three properties situated at 1224, 1226, and 1228 East Fayette Street. The Planning Commission approved the re-subdivision in 2019. There was a requirement to file the map within 62 days of approval. The applicant at that time had not filed the map. As part of the special permit application, the applicant is requesting an extension to that filing date rather than file a new subdivision application.
new filing deadline would be in early 2023, correct?
Hopefully, whatever,
May 25th, 2023?
It would, this is asking for it to go till October.
Nope, is it? Wait.
yes, it would be May 25th, 2023.
Well, that's the deadline. We call it extension until October 23rd.
Oh, well, I don't have that.
Oh, it's right here.
Thank you. While we have the applicant here, are there questions regarding this requested time extension?
Hang on 1 second.
So the, so the request is to grant the extension back to the date of the map should have been filed. Is that technically what we're doing? That's technically it would be back to 2019 to cover the filing period until May of 2023.
Yeah, George was just reading something that said October, that's all.
Oh, okay.
Of 23. Do you see it at the bottom?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's a email from the applicant,
October 18th.
yeah, last month requesting an extension until October of 2023. Our packet has suggested extension date of May 25, 2023. We should make sure there's consensus on the date so that we act upon the appropriate date. So would there be a reason it would not be October 2023?
That could have been my error, that maybe that was the date of the letter was written instead.
I don't know where the disconnect is from, so,
Can we
you know,
ask-
you can certainly ask the applicant
I bel-
when they would like to have the filing date established.
Yeah.
I'll file it right away, and it should be, I was just unaware of the procedure, and I made a mistake in the past, but I can have it filed by May.
Thank you.
Be straightforward.
There we go, that was easy.
And we have our information clarified, so all is good. Okay, then, this is a new business item. Is there a motion to act upon this requested time extension until May 2023?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? That time extension is approved. May of 23. Okay, thank you so much on both items. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we move to old business.
The first old business item is SP 2204, a special permit for a restaurant on property situated at 3902, 3916 South Salina Street. The City Planning Commission held a series of public hearings on August 8th, August 29th, September 19th, and October 11th of this year. The commission closed the public hearing on October 11th, 2022. As such, the commission must render a decision no later than December 12th, or the application will receive automatic approval. Just for the record, the commission is scheduled to meet on December 12th. The proposal requires 107 off-street parking spaces based on the customer area. The applicant's proposing a total of 96 off-street parking spaces consisting of 41 spaces on-site, 35 spaces on properties situated at 4141 South Salina Street, also known as Valley Plaza, and 20 spaces on property situated at 4004 South Salina Street, also known as the Family Dollar. However, the applicant has only provided a parking license agreement dated August 30, 2022 for 30 spaces, 5 less than proposed for Valley Plaza. I do have a letter from Family Dollar saying that they'll allow the applicant to use parking on Family Dollar, but I will defer to the law department if that constitutes legal possession as required by the city zoning ordinance. Having said that, the applicant has currently secured 71 off-street parking spaces consisting of 41 spaces on site and 30 spaces at Valley Plaza. The proposed parking at Valley Plaza does deviate from the zoning regulations in that parking for live and/or electronically amplified entertainment must be available on-site, adjacent to, or directly across the street from the establishment within which the entertainment is provided. Valley Plaza is located slightly down the block from the site and does not meet those criteria. Based on the current set of plans on file and in your packet, the proposal necessitates 7 waivers as laid out in your staff report. But there would be a waiver to allow 71 off-street parking spaces in lieu of 107, provided that the proposed parking at Family Dollar does not constitute legal possession. A waiver to maintain an existing 40-foot wide driveway on South Salina Street. A waiver from the on-site curbing requirements along the southerly and southwesterly property boundaries. Essentially, the parking area should be enclosed with curbing, and it's not. A waiver to maintain a street line treatment area with the width of 6 feet along South Salina Street in lieu of the required 8 feet, and 7 feet along Valentine Road, again in lieu of the required 8 feet. A waiver to allow live and/or electronically amplified entertainment within 300 feet of a residential zoning district. A waiver to allow parking for live and/or electronically amplified entertainment at Valley Plaza as previously discussed. And a waiver to maintain an existing parking area with a setback from South Salina Street of approximately 7 feet in lieu of the required 10 feet.
To answer the question regarding the Family Dollar parking, the position of my office would be that unless there was a signed agreement, the letter is not sufficient to confer those spots, but should the planning commission so choose, you could approve conditioned upon them getting that to staff within 30 days, but the letter itself is not binding.
Question?
Sure.
Why isn't it binding, and what type of letter would they need?
I think they need an actual agreement, a lease or some type of license agreement to actually utilize the spaces.
Okay, so we need to convey that to them.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that, I'm not addressing any of the other requests for a waiver, but to the extent you wanted to grant a waiver for the parking, but waive only a certain portion, assuming that they could obtain the spots in the Family Dollar lot,
Okay.
then you could do that conditioned upon them
The letter.
providing to us the agreement.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's just a copy of what was provided.
Yeah,
for the
this is
Family
not
Dollar.
sufficient.
Oh, I know, I already know, so I'm trying to get them to get what they need.
Thanks for the summary, Jeff, and the clarification regarding the adequacy of the letter.
So in short, there's 71 parking spaces secured, given the proposed parking on site and 30 at Valley Plaza. Now, having said that, and what's written here, I was recounting, and I'm going to, I counted 40 spaces on site, so I'm going to revise that 71 to 70. And they're short 37 off-street parking spaces.
Oh, boy.
That's just for the last one.
That's a lot to wait.
Based on the customer area.
comments or other questions for staff?
I think, did I ask if you ran this latest sketch plan by Neil? The latest one?
Don't know if you asked.
Because I was
We
concerned,
do have review comments.
because I was concerned by,
Yes, there are review comments from Neil dated November 15th.
oh,
For the site plan dated October 31st
thank
in
you.
your,
That's what I was looking for.
they're on the back side.
They're on the
Thank
backside.
you.
Thank you.
They're trying to fit like a circle into like a square into a circle.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, see, this is one of the things I was concerned about. One of the people who offered public comment suggested that in looking at the drawing, the parking stalls that were shown on the drawing didn't meet industry standards or the city's minimum standard. For example, a 15-foot long space, which is well below the industry standard, which usually is 8. And I believe that's also the city. So if you put all of those dimensions, if you dimension it correctly, it's probably not the same number of spaces that are shown on the drawing. The shortfall grows. And also there were comments, I've now messed this all up, so I'm not gonna find them quickly. But that the very wide curb cut that folks were actually parking in the curb cut as well on Salina, which is a concern. And I think somewhere in here, I think Neil, maybe not in his most recent comments, but I think somewhere else he talked about that driveway needing to be narrow as well, narrower as well. But I think those were his earlier comments, not these here.
Discussion?
I think it would just be good to just clarify to the applicant regarding the letter. I don't know if they both heard what we said.
On the letter from the Family Dollar, we need it to be more of a formal agreement, like an agreement to issue those spaces.
Basically, like on letterhead,
It should be an actual agreement, like here's what you're paying for them, here's what they're agreeing to lease you, for how long, you know, what the actual terms of that arrangement are, and more of a legal document looking, and it can be done by a store manager.
As we do with the owner of the property.
We know what to do with the, we know how to corporate, we know how to meticulous, we did.
What you asked for, so we're asking for something from the actual owner, not the store manager, that is signed, notarized, Right. So what I'm suggesting, if the commission is inclined to grant the waiver of the number of spots, you would have to be conditioned upon submitting that final signed agreement. It has to have the number of spots, what you pay for those spots, how long, how many years, what is the term of the agreement? And you submit that to staff. So they just wanted to make sure that you understood what I was saying about that formal agreement. You're welcome.
I think that the concern I continue to have is that, again, the number of spaces that we see in the site plan, I don't know that those are real spaces. And I know that the applicants have been dealing with, I believe an architect was here one day. But I think before we can even start counting spaces to decide how many there are and how many might be provided off-site, there has to be a much more realistic site plan. And I'm really reluctant, again, I'm really reluctant to trust that design right now, just knowing what I know about the drawing and what I know about parking lot design. So I'm a little uncomfortable thinking we have a real number of spaces that we're dealing with right now. Oh, as I said, I think in the last meeting, there's a gate that goes through one of the drawings, or one of the stalls on the drawing, which would make two spaces not usable because there's a fence right in the middle of them. So I'm not sure that that gets rectified between now and December 12th, and it might be better if we give the applicants as much time as possible to get the letter that they need, to revise the drawing, and then basically if we have to start the process all over, at least we'd have all the information and we could make an informed decision, or have an informed deliberation and then make an informed decision.
Does the applicant understand that or no?
Yeah, we do.
I mean, I don't know how the rest of you all feel. I want to be fair in our assessment. I just don't know that we have the right information to be informed about that. And I can't, and this is such a bad drawing on this guy's paper, to be honest with you. I think he took their money, but
At the last meeting, she said that she wanted to hear something from the transportation.
right.
Okay,
And he gave us those comments, and he said one of the same things I said, that he doesn't think that the stalls that are shown, the parking spaces shown on a diagonal, that they don't work.
As far as size, so.
As far as size, so whoever drew this, they didn't use the right sizes for the parking spaces, and if you draw them at the right
architect Jim
size,
Mills.
if you draw them at the right size, you're not gonna have as many spaces as you think.
Basically, the drawing shows a parking lot that is realistically probably 15, like, what is it, feet?
Yeah,
And it needs to be actually 18.
So if you draw it at that size, you're probably gonna lose some spaces.
20%.
Yeah. And in one case, he shows a security gate that goes right between two parking spaces, which would mean you couldn't really use either of those. So I think either working with the person who drew this for you or with someone else who can grapple with the parking lot design will give you a better number of how many spaces you need to have. And so, for example, if you're gonna go to Family Dollar, whatever the adjacent property is, and ask them, right now you might be asking them for 2 spaces, but you really might need 10 spaces. So I think you have to work on this piece first. Find out realistically how many spaces can actually get on here, because this isn't realistic. It doesn't meet the space that you need for this many parking areas. It's not correct.
You follow?
Yeah.
So that person, I would just, recommend for us going at the length of time we've gone with this application, you really should, staff, lean on staff a little more for guidance and hold that person accountable who's drawing this for you.
Jim Nettles, our
Yeah,
architect.
so I recommend you hold him more accountable in whatever capacity and lean on staff for what you actually need, so we don't have this discourse of information and then you coming back frustrated, feeling like you're not making any progress, but you can't when you don't know where you're trying to go. So lean on staff, get some insight from them on what's actually needed, and have that person who you're working with and most likely paying to do this for you.
And if we can't do it by the 12th, then what we can do is just give you as much time as necessary, and you can, basically we'll start the clock all over again.
But I thought if you don't make a decision by the 12th, we automatically get the permit.
Well, but we could also, if we don't have the right information, we could also just deny it. So what we're saying is, we don't want to just deny it outright, but we want to give you enough time to get the information so we can make an informed decision. So we can do what's called denying it without prejudice, which means we're not going to act on it. It won't automatically be approved, but you can take your time to get all the information, the correct information that we can then look at.
Help us help you.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
All right.
All right?
So do we need a motion to that effect?
to just.
To-
You're gonna hold it until your next meeting and
We
give
can
them
hold it to our
opportunity.
next meeting, and if we get all the information, we could act, and if we don't, then we might give them more time by doing what I just said, denial without prejudice.
Agreed.
Okay.
So, for my own benefit and going forward,
Yes,
I will be asking the applicant for a revised site plan,
that meets,
as has been done in the past, that illustrates parking drawn to scale,
yes, and meets required standards.
and legal documentation for any additional proposed parking.
And meeting any of the other requirements that Neil had in his comments, which I believe included, again, that really
yeah, I
large
would just-
curb cut on
Salina.
Salina wasn't that large.
Neil's previous comments are on that sheet.
Right.
They're the
I just have lost it in my mess.
segment before, or the window before.
Right.
And written agreement, legal agreement, technically, I guess, would be a letter, well, a letter with letterhead from the company of itself, not just a manager.
And if we had a sample, an example we could share with them, that might help. But-
We've asked other owners, people who have apartments and who build
Yes.
buildings. We've done the same thing and said, since you don't have the off-street parking you need, can you come back with an agreement from somebody near you that has a parking lot that will lease you spaces while you're operating? Okay, ma'am?
All right?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good luck.
Have another old business item before we get to some other discussion and the authorizations. Regarding CA-22-12A, where this is a certificate of appropriateness appeal, and I would like to move that before we consider the appeal, that the commission move to executive session to discuss with its attorney privileged communication between the law department and the commission. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? That means we will step out of the council chambers for a brief discussion with the attorney who represents the commission on this matter, return and leave executive session and consider action on the appeal that's before us.
This is gonna be interesting.